Oh, we're not on
Also,
yet?
you get to eat all of the barbecue and anything else we will be having.
Listen, the one thing I am obsessed with having again, as I was telling Miller earlier, is that pizza.
I did not get a chance to
from-
have that pizza.
Well, you know what? You need to have
This will
the
be your
pizza.
chance.
Okay.
Ooh.
Listen. You know how I know this was really, really good pizza?
How?
We took Frederick with us, and he said it was good pizza.
I see.
Specifically, I wanted him there, because if there's one person whose opinion I trust, it is Mr. Italian from Italy.
If I ever went and I had a taste pizza, I said, I'll find out which is the best pepperoni cheese pizza. Because that's the only kind of pizza I eat.
This stuff, it was pepperoni, and I think a couple of different kinds of cheese, and they had pesto, like, on top of it.
Mm.
It was called the Jabroni Pizza.
The Jabroni Pizza.
But I have to admit, I've been getting the hang of mushrooms lately.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't like mushrooms.
I was a kid, I really didn't like them.
I enjoy bell peppers on my pizza if I want some kind of vegetable.
So, hello, everybody in chat.
Hello, welcome to
Hey,
this
folks.
game that's not about pizza, and yet we can't stop thinking about the stuff.
At the end of the
Pizza,
stream,
pizza,
look at
pizza.
this red light, it's on the pizza. Okay?
I know I sound like a snob, but I still thought it was pretty good and the closest to Italian quality I've had in this country, but still
See?
not entirely there.
Well, yes, I figured you would have a few complaints about it, but certainly the best I've ever had. So
You probably noticed. You probably noticed, Fed, but like America always tweaks the foreign cuisine a little bit to suit our standards.
well, I mean, not only that, but also like literally when immigrants come to America, they have to use different ingredients.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Because not everything that they used in their home country is readily available here, or at least wasn't back in the day. Nowadays, you can probably get almost anything that you want in the US.
And sometimes stuff can also taste different when it's grown in a country. Like,
True.
like apparently there's a particular kind of Italian I forget what it's called. It's like blood orange juice, where the blood oranges they use to make it taste different because they're grown in like volcanic soil, and it's really just like really good.
Blood oranges.
Yeah, thank you, yes.
Two of my favorite things.
Mazel tov. Anyway, Hayseed Knight.
Yes, Hayseed Knight.
Hayseed Knight!
Okay, the cloister was no longer the quiet place it had been during Adder's employment. It remained empty, yes, but now it was flooded with conversations coming from the yard at the other side of the gate. He could hear them all the way back to the kitchen. And then there was Aina, quietly walking a few steps behind him. Her feet didn't knock a single noise out of the flagstones.
I wonder what that was all about. I always thought the studying types would get along great. I'm sure they got lots of fancy stuff to talk about. Fancier insults for sure. Smart people get territorial about their brain stuff. Just look at Sip.
Aina didn't make the slightest sound in response to that affirmation. It was odd. There was no space for silence in the walkways filled with distant words, but their whispers didn't calm Adder's anxiety the way Aina's stillness did. Once at the kitchen, Adder laid down his mise-en-place assortment of terrifyingly sharp knives and acceptably rank potatoes and started preparing the dinner, sending glances toward Aina every so often.
Hey, you know that potato I was eating before? I cooked it. I can cook now. Sorta. I mean, I just cut things, then heat them up for a bit, toss some salt on them and all, but hey, baby steps. I feel like I'm not doing too bad for myself.
He almost juggled the knife up in the air to make his point, but decided the point was fine where it was, actually.
Yeah, listen, Adder, you've already got one eye.
Wish I'd come to my senses about this stuff earlier. I could have helped you a lot. I would have been less nasty about all sorts of things. Maybe I could have even cooked something for you. But you don't eat. Not really.
Adder knew that he was in the vicinity of the truth, but not quite in the right street. Aina did eat. Everything that lived ate, Sepp proved as much. The boy stared at his ex-boss in the musty darkness of the kitchen. His eyelid flickered for a moment. His fingers curled in and out, refusing to heed the future his thoughts were setting for them.
I'm sorry, Aina. I gotta try to. Please forgive me.
Ada put the fleshy side of his arm inside Aina's mouth and flinched, knowing well that the pain that was coming. In one quick, fearless motion, Adder snapped Aina's jaw shut over his own skin. He held his breath not to scream, neither from the pain or the sight of blood trickling down her fangs.
What's he doing?
In a twisted, horrible way, there was something that looked right about Aina's white teeth and fur smeared with blood. Something dormant in the back of Adder's brain knew that this was the way things were supposed to go.
Wait a
That
minute.
is hot.
Are we suggesting it as a vampire?
I've been saying that for multiple streams.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's close to that category.
Adder paid this thought no mind. He forced his way through the terrifying vision just to find that Aina remained as motionless as she was before.
Guess I'm not magical enough for you. Oh, shit. I need to wash this. Dinner time, y'all!
Adder finally arrived at the rarely used dinner hall with a remade potato stew and a bandage covering a good chunk of his arm. Zhao and Bearbith were both waiting for him at the table, though they still would not willingly exchange a single look. The makeshift cook set a ceramic bowl in the middle and then let some salt rain over it in the manner of a knowledgeable chef. The priestess finally looked up from her ire upon being offered a plate, only to jump in her seat at the sight before her.
Ada, what happened?
I went and cut myself while cooking.
You cut your arm while cooking?
Oh, that's not so rare. You should see how many times I've stabbed myself trying to learn how to use a scalpel with my left hand. Granted, I lack any feeling in my right arm, so it may be a slightly different case.
Ain't nothing that'll kill me. Really, I'm fine.
I won't tell you what to do, but keep in mind that exertion only makes recovery longer. We're all adults here, and we're perfectly capable of cooking for ourselves.
Actually, we could get some servants to...
You'll learn.
I'll be fine, as I said. Now, how about y'all? Found anything interesting, or you just spent all evening glaring daggers at each other?
Zhao and Bearbith shared a quick glance on Q. Their eyes softened as they nodded with reluctant understanding.
We believe we may be onto something.
Emphasis on may.
Bearbeth leaned towards one of the book piles they'd insisted on bringing into the dining hall and set out to grab a clay tablet. Adder knew this was called a codex by proxy of Zhao's mind, but this told him very little about their use.
Charts of the Many One, a rare pre-Jasific document that survived the legendary purification, or to put it bluntly, the horrific literary cleanse that the Third Dynasty subjected their own libraries to when the Jasibs were first divinized. It would seem to imply that the first indications we have of anything resembling Jasif were a socio-magical anomaly, as we previously established. Shapeshifters of sorts. People who could manipulate their own appearance in the eyes of others.
Seem, because this is extremely sacrilegious.
These proto-Yasif were known as delicate people who should be cared for and kept away from any sort of effort, for they would quite literally combust when presented with tasks they could not bear. This may be how their reverence started.
It's not, but okay.
The Many One would be assigned a Sephi in charge of returning them back to their original shape. This was done through a ritual, where they were provided some sort of alchemic element that could recompose their character.
But that's the one place where I can speak with any authority. Sephi often wrote about the mental state of Jasif. Biased as they might have been, we know their role in the court was to provide daily guidance, so as to avoid any sort of catastrophe. I always took it to mean a general downfall for the population at the hands of a single tyrant, as was the case with Amagebsep. But, it would seem they meant something far more casual to them. Something like,
The library is filled with records of young Jasif bursting into flames at the mildest annoyance, which apparently serves to explain the Besaksaran insistence on using codices for official documents, despite having access to cellulose.
That's pronounced codices.
Potato.
Bearbith's just fancy, and also uneducated.
Yes, if there's one thing that Burbot is, it's undereducated.
If anything is verbitos, it's verbitese.
No, he's one of those people who's, like, read this word, but never heard it said out loud.
Yeah.
That happens to a lot of people who are voracious readers.
Happens to me.
Yeah, well, it happens to me, too. It happens to everyone who reads a lot and doesn't get out enough.
Okay, so all I got from that was that once upon a time, Fawn's exploding was kind of normal, and Barha magicians knew how to glue 'em back together real good.
Yes!
Pretty much.
I see! I'm going to bed. Y'all figure this one out on your own.
You know, exploding queens is no basis for a form of government.
I like how Adder can barely even be bothered with this anymore.
What Adder didn't realize is that bedtime now would entail several hours of a completely unresponsive Aina standing in front of the charcoal pile, staring down at him.
Not creepy at all.
Dark. Dark. Dark and quiet. Shouldn't it be morning by now? Purple beads in the night, his only company.
Oh, morning, boss.
Morning, Adder.
I can never get used to you talking.
Adder opened his eye at last. Aina left. He was alone.
I forgot to ask if she wanted breakfast.
Adder looked around. It had been a while since the forge was quite so dark, even in the middle of the night.
I'd love breakfast.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Aina took my arms.
I'm going to tell Sep about this.
No, please, don't tell Sep. Anyone but her.
Echo ran off, muttering things to the forge. You know, I think this might be a dream.
I think so.
Don't, no! I'll be in trouble! That'll kill him!
What makes you say that?
Adder tried to get up, only to fall to his knees. Even forced to grovel, he ran towards the mangled body. Roots started falling from the skies, trapping him in their vines. A star ahead extinguished into a white light.
Sep! Sep!
Guy named Glitch. Nah, that last potato was magic. Magic in a certain definition of the word, yeah.
Toxic. That's the word you're looking
yes.
for.
Adder could feel the sweat running down his neck, his brow, and his back. His arms hurt like they'd just been torn from his body.
It was a dream.
Good sleep.
You're okay. Sep, the Jasif is okay.
You sure?
Zhao nodded hesitantly, clearly taken aback by the question.
I was just headed to the dormitory when I heard you screaming.
Sorry. That must have scared you. I get these weird dreams every so often. And, you know, I just gotta be a loudmouth, even while I sleep.
Do you want to talk about it?
No, I'm fine. Real fine. In fact, this was a good thing. I feel all gross and sticky now, so I'm just gonna go take a quick bath, and then I'll be back and ready to attack.
Adder ran away before he could garner any more sympathy. The water running through the temple's pipes was cold, hard, and tasted about how you'd expect water coming from a well that hadn't received any maintenance in 400 years would taste.
So is he covering himself or something?
Remove the censoring text, Rick.
Well, he's holding something over his waist. It was more than Adder felt like he deserved, and it was enough to scrub away at all the grime sticking to his skin and the blood that had hardened into scabs. After lathering himself in a brace of soap and burning away any lingering fear, Adder finally emptied one last bucket over himself. He stood there, alone, with the empty receptacle in his hands for a moment. Noiselessly, he lowered the bucket over his antlers and stuck his head in it. Then he screamed.
Why didn't you listen to Sep? Why'd you have to go and play the hero? Idiot, idiot, idiot!
He banged on the bucket time and again, until silence finally seemed to quiet down.
That's settled then. Screw the beast and screw all this. We're running away when she's back.
Adder nodded to himself. He turned around to leave, only to find Aina facing him vacantly with a towel on her arm.
Oh, thank you, boss.
Adder made to grab the towel. He wiggled his fingers with apprehension as he observed Aina's face. He put his face as close as he dared to hers and stared intently into her eyes, doing his best to keep his sopping wet hair out of the way.
You're in there somewhere, right?
If she was hiding as usual.
Sep would have known how to bother you right back to normal. Maybe she'd have called you a good girl? Is that what you want?
Adder patted Ana's head tentatively. No response.
Anyway, out with you now. I don't think jail knows about the three of us, and I don't want to be the one to give her the rundown.
After a moment of nothing, Ana nodded. She turned around and walked away.
It ain't 'cause I'm ashamed or anything. I just don't think she'd understand, right? Maybe I'm the one who doesn't understand.
Under the towel, Adder found a neatly folded piece of blue and white fabric.
My cape. Boss?
She's in there somewhere.
He ran to the end of the bath looking for Ana, but she was already gone. In the cold, damp washing room, Adder cried over a silly piece of fabric. Adder arrived at the forge, finding Zhao fully dressed and ready to start her day. She didn't turn to greet him again, however. Her gaze was fixed on the yard.
Ada, do you happen to know why the yard is filled with tents?
Oh, yeah. That a tour guy wanted to make a peace offering or something like that.
Right, but what need do we have for them?
What do you mean? You've never slept in a tent?
No, I mean, yes, I know what tents are. I'm asking, why are they setting up camp in the temple?
'Cause they ain't got nowhere else to go?
They don't?
Well, yeah. Don't take my word for it, but I doubt most of these folks got anywhere left to return. Whoever they were working for and wherever they were staying won't be very happy to see them mixed up in this.
What's this supposed to mean? We are just praying for the return of the Joseph.
Yeah, I don't think that's the idea anyone got. Some think it's a strike, some think it's a revolution, and all of them are here to follow you wherever you lead them.
Lead them? Me? No, I'm sure you just misread the situation. I'm not a...
It was obvious that her eyes were now fixed on a young gazelle, clearly down on her luck, walking across the flagstones in the entrance, hand in hand with a small fawn. Her voice quivered.
Anyway, feeding the congregation is one thing, but life in the temple is reserved for the priests. We need to let them know that the seer won't take kindly to this.
You do what you gotta do, priestess, but I sure as hey won't be the one to tell them they gotta get now.
Zhao put a hand to her face, covering her mouth as she contemplated their options. Desperate for ways to distract her from that thought, Adder slid his whole body in front of her and crouched down to her eye level.
Come on, what's it matter at this point? The temple's been ruined for centuries, and that old geezer couldn't give less of a damn about this place if he tried. In for a Doru, right?
Nobody could stand to look at Adder's pleading eye for long, and they should be thankful that they hadn't met him when he could cause double the effect.
I guess that desperate times call for desperate measures. I'll go talk to them and see if we can come to a good arrangement.
If she knew, he thought, feeling his throat turn dry as his thoughts drifted to Eka. If she knew why he wanted him here. He couldn't bear to finish the sentence in his mind. Not any more than he could bear the thought of hiding behind a meat shield now that it had been so markedly pointed to him.
While you're on that, we ought to make sure we keep tabs on the head count. You know, for food delivery and such. I'd take care of that myself, but I ain't sure I know numbers all the way up there.
Get Burbith to help you. If it's as you say, it's going to get busy from now on.
As long as that's all it gets.
Adder made to leave, but Zhao put a hand on his sleeve.
Ada, thank you for everything.
Adder couldn't bring himself to reply. He merely plastered a faker-than-usual smile on his face and nodded. Adder felt like he'd truly reached a turning point in his life. Gotta save some energy first.
You're gonna fight the final boss.
From now on, Adder will have to decide carefully how best to spend each morning, afternoon, and evening, just like this is Persona.
Oh my god, Maxie,
Keep
why?
that save. You'll want to reload it a couple times later on.
I always make sure I have new saves.
This actually reminds me of Potionomics, actually. I don't know if anybody ever played that.
No, it's very Persona. Rick is right on that.
Okay.
Yeah, Maxie just gave us a ton of save slots anyway for some reason.
That's just what Rempe has.
That's just what heroes do.
I haven't played any recent Personas, but I've never played the old ones, and not sure. Anyway, let's just see what happens.
On a normal day, Zhao had to answer approximately 3,045 questions, or at least that's how it felt to everyone involved. Being the supervisor and the spiritual leader of a newly formed congregation for a forsaken god required addressing a never-ending stream of concerns that had no clear solution, and that only grew more agonizing if unanswered. Our barely qualified translator could only do his best to smile and interpret Zhao's morsels of life advice, hoping that none of them would apply to him. Make tools in the forge, help around the kitchen.
You must choose, but choose wisely.
Do you want my
I
suggestion?
have no idea what...
I would go with the food, the kitchen.
As soon as the task delivery meeting started, Maswin, once a cook for a family of Cheetal ambassadors from the western limits, now a pantler for a local house, immediately volunteered to oversee the production and delivery of all meals for the congregation. Only a few
What's a pantler?
I don't know. Only a few select people would be allowed to get anywhere near the pantry, with Maswin as the sole key holder. A handful more would help with cooking and other assorted tasks. Adder, as a former water seller, was named chief of running around the kitchen filling pots with water. Patrol corridors. Spend some time with Sep. Adder plopped down on the anvil next to a forge and set his helmet on his lap. He had much to tell, and stories were meant to be shared over a fire. The morning started on a high note, the highest one Adder could reach. The vision of Aina's empty lilac stare, a hair's width away from his snout, had made his heart skip a beat, and not in a good way. Before he had a chance to recover and ask if she needed anything, Aina mechanically shoved a ball of something into his gaping mouth and walked away. A crudely made map, drawn in what he could only hope was red berry juice over some kind of burlap fabric. Smudged as it was, the Adder could still discern the drawing of a carrot with a little arrow pointed towards one of the streets surrounding the temple. At the end of it, a particular alley was circled over and over again. On the bottom, an axiom was conveyed with graceful simplicity through just 2 drawings. No carrot, eat bones. Adder normally wasn't in the business of following random mysterious maps, but he was pretty sure he knew exactly who'd drawn it, where it led, and what it'd mean for everyone around him if he didn't comply.
Dictionary says, a pantler is the servant in charge of the bread and the pantry in a great house.
See, and here I thought it was a pants-themed supervillain.
A whirlwind of half-built tents, blankets, and cookware lay strewn across a barren garden that once welcomed devotees into Hirub's home. While technically within the temple's premises, the courtyard sat outside the sanctity of the main keep and currently offered about as much protection against the elements as a hedge. Adder stretched out his back and rolled his shoulders a few times. Someone could definitely use a giant hand or two moving stuff around. Adder had found himself a pupil to many masters in his life. None of them, I must humbly add, particularly good teachers. That's why, when he finally found himself alone in the forge, equipped with nothing but good intentions and beholden only to Aina's empty gaze and the holy fire's soft crackling, he realized that nothing much had changed from the usual. He would have to forge his way into the world of blacksmithery alone.
Man, Adder's having to learn how to do everything that people used to do for him, huh?
Adder wandered off towards the forge, hoping to catch a moment alone with Sep between tasks. When he arrived, however, he found himself in the company of Zhao, who was sitting by the window with a book in one hand and her face in the other. His cheerful greeting was answered with resounding silence. Zhao barely appeared to be looking at the pages.
Hello? Doc Nada Jow? You still with us?
Yes. Hi. Sorry, I was just resting my eyes.
Looked more like you were resting your brain.
You're not wrong. I couldn't seem to sleep last night, so I thought I'd take a walk to calm down. It was dark out, so I headed to the library instead, but Burbith was working late and he wanted my opinion on something. I thought it'd take a moment.
But you spent all night working in the end. Come on. You know that ain't healthy. If you felt so lonely, you could have just woken me up.
I've walked 1,000 leagues to get here, Ada. I know where my limits are and how to take care of myself. And if there's one thing I'm sure of, it's that I can't afford to pay the price of failure. I speak for Barhankind as one until the Jasif returns, and this humbles me to my core. But I am the face of every Ibex yet to come too. It's my chance to prove we are more than just warriors. I can't shut myself out from everything happening now.
Adder scratched the back of his neck. He couldn't really refute that, not in any way that wouldn't make him feel like an uncaring layabout.
You do what you gotta do, ma'am. But you ain't gonna be able to help no one if you just bust your gut worrying all day long.
Take your own advice.
The cobbler's fawns are always the worst shot, didn't you know?
Oh, that's a new saying to me.
I do like it,
as
though.
I say, not as I do.
Ding, ding, ding! Got it in one! First prize, ma'am!
What did I win?
A relaxing break outside the temple, away from the entire world, to be redeemed whenever your holiness needs it.
Zhao cast her eyes down, focusing once more on the book she'd spent the last half hour ignoring. She pondered something for a moment, before finally turning a wry smile towards Adder.
Only if you come too.
Adder grinned back at first. The corner of his lips started sagging, weighed down by the thought of a lonely flame burning away in the forge.
I don't think we're going on that trip any day soon.
Disc?
Adder couldn't help the fear that shook him when he was informed that it was his turn to patrol the premises, but he hated the idea of refusing even more. Night watch. Someone needed to make sure that the temple remained safe, or more realistically, they needed someone with lungs the size of melons to sound the alarm. Adder turned in his sleep. The voices haunted him this night too, but they weren't inside his head for once.
Adder, can't you hear? Wake up! Drag your ass out there or they're going to get us all killed!
Huh? Who's gonna get us killed? What?
Your ass.
It was only after Adder was scared awake that the faint sound of someone banging their fists against metal finally reached his ears.
Someone, please come out! We have to stop Etor!
Adder didn't have time to hesitate. He immediately staggered to his feet and reached out for his helmet. Without thinking twice, he limped towards the entrance. What he found just outside the crumbled walls that surrounded the temple yard was one of the tensest moments he'd walked into in weeks. A guard clutching his spear, surrounded by a large contingent of gazelles and sable riders. Ahead of them was Etor, pointing his sword at the intruder.
Lower your weapon! Last warning! Make me!
Whoa, what's going on here?
This guard tried to search me!
So you went and pulled a sword on him? Did you forget your promise?
This is a good cause!
Etor, please! Put that thing down before you do something you regret!
And his eyes shone a dangerous purple behind Adder. He gently pushed her back behind the gate, hoping she wouldn't have to come out. Adder made to step out alone into the group when it finally dawned on him that he wasn't wearing his full disguise. Even in the cover of night, if that guard were to recognize him.
Wait here, all right? I'll go get...
You're not going anywhere until I say so! What language do I have to speak to make your little gazelle friends understand that it's curfew? Nobody gets to wander the city at night without a permit. Permits? I wipe my ass with all the permits in your city. I'm a free man, and I shall go where I damn well please, when I choose to!
I don't think it's the time to make an enemy of the guard.
Yeah.
Not yet.
I'm not sure that being cowardly would work, though.
Man, Maxie has actually made the choices difficult.
You've already missed it earlier, but there's an achievement for always taking all the choices that mention a butt.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure I'll get that one.
Man, Maxie. Achievements in the butt, alright?
Listen, man. Maxie's like me. Knows what he wants. Goes for it.
Seizes it with both hands.
They can even be contained in both hands.
Can't argue there.
Right. Look, it's not that I don't get you. I do. The guards bend the rules whenever they feel like it if your coin purse is heavy enough. But the rules are the rules, and they're there to protect us all, no matter the species, yeah?
You can't be serious! They never pull this crap on deer!
What would you know what I do? Listen to the hick, he knows his stuff.
A brick flew right past the guard's face. He immediately put his spear up, looking for the thrower, but the number of people holding debris only increased with every threat he made. At the very last moment, when violence seemed like an inevitable turn, the gates clanked open once more. The cover of the night, a small half-dressed goat with her hair still down and a serious scowl on her face, walked out.
Stop! More screams wouldn't help you. What is the problem?
The problem is that the lot of you huffheads don't realize the position you're in. If you don't help me put shackles on the sword guy right now, I'm going to have everyone in the Sodding Temple arrested for obstruction!
Why?
What do you mean, why? Because that's the law! Do you know what a law is, you stupid goat?
Everyone around him tensed up. Zhao put her hand up.
What is the reason, the purpose of this law?
To stop no-gooders like you from wandering about!
Zhao sent a look in Adder's direction. He immediately knew to crouch down to her eye level. Once she had finished muttering her thoughts, Adder nodded, straightening himself up, and said for her.
So you limit the rights of all the citizens in order to justify your own prejudice?
The guard stammered back. You could almost hear him go red in the face in the dark.
I'm not the one who writes the rules, I just enforce them! This is unlawful occupation of public property! There will be consequences!
Unlawful? Get a load of this guy. Don't you know the temple belongs to that old Mother Hubbard Tespertalk? It's private property, champ, and he's letting us stay here because he wants to.
Adder felt
This is the young guard from Sep's memories, right?
I don't know. Adder felt like the guard immediately knew it was a bluff, but not which part.
Hey, I mean, if you want to be the buck who messed with the friends of Asefi...
We'll see about that!
The guard rushed away in a panic. There was a moment of silence, and then immediately a huge ovation.
Woo!
We'll see about that! Oh shit! Someone shit my pants!
No. We must not give an inch to the likes of him. But I have done nothing worth praising. This was just a scuffle. One day we'll have to prove the power of our conviction in a real fight. Tonight is the priestess's intervention. We should be celebrating! May your wisdom erase all hypocrisy from this world.
What? No flowers from Moo? No, I'm just messing with you all. This guy got it right for once. Long live the priestess.
I haven't really... Why are you...
Crowd happily stole Zhao away, launching her in the air and chanting her virtues while she yelped her lungs out.
Did you really have to bring up the witch, translator?
What? I wasn't the one who... Anyway, it was all true. Mostly. Kinda.
I'll let this one slide. I'd rather take my chances with the Sephi than the guard.
Little by little, the congregation that remained awake dispersed and went back to their tents. Adder, absolutely spent of any energy he could have gathered in 2 hours of sleep, headed back to the gate first. Right as he was about to cross in, Bearbeth rushed out. Behind him, Gyoff desperately trying to pull him back into the temple.
I heard the commotion in the yard. What did I miss? Are we finally starting the revolution?
You're going to start one if the guards see you, you royal idiot!
Bearbeth, come on. Don't go stirring up more trouble now. Get back inside and go back to sleep, all right?
He's gonna cause trouble, isn't he?
Sleep? Oh, Adder, that is such a funny joke. I wasn't sleeping. I was working on setting up my new workshop. Our conditions may not be ideal, but I made up my mind to help you. And science waits for no one.
You're banned from doing whatever it is that is till I tell you.
Adder dragged his feet back to bed, followed by a string of complaints all the way to the forge. Set up Bearbeth's workshop.
Help tents or help translations?
Zhao had a gift, the way Adder saw it. She had an extremely commanding presence despite her size, and an amazing talent for delivering incendiary speeches with the most innocent of intentions, born perhaps from her time scaring brigands on the road. Adder couldn't help but wonder if the effect of her words was increased or lessened through his accent and his mannerisms, if he was somehow overcompensating for his own inadequacy in translating her messages by being far more intense than he meant to be. No, he knew that she would have been unstoppable on her own.
To stand in the way of science is to stand in the way of progress. Is that how you wish to be remembered? As a sin? As a flag bearer of the putrid fear of the unknown?
Make it stop.
I'm sure he's bound to run out of air eventually. Faster, if you follow my suggestion.
We are not throwing Bearbeth in a well. We are not ransoming Bearbeth. And we are not building a golem!
So let's borrow one then!
Borrow a golem? Borrow as in loan? Loner. Loner. I gotta go wake y'all up!
Caleb barely shifted his eyes towards Sir Upperfield and his retinue, which had so boldly decided to show up in his guild office unannounced.
I thought I made it clear that I could not be seen with the likes of you, Addersind, and less so accompanied by that fetid parasite of all people in this city.
Oh, trust me, the feeling is mutual. I wouldn't be anywhere nearby if I could help it, but you know whose life is on the line.
It will be yours if you insist on compromising my position. Leave now, or I'll have you escorted out.
You're gonna have to run that by Aina.
Taled quickly turned around. He looked at the little pale creature by Adder's side, then back at Adder. Confusion soon turned into bloodthirst as her name engraved itself in Taled's mind once again.
I'm here too, if that makes any difference.
Thank you, Bearbeth.
Lord Asgadath? Is that you?
Bearbeth eagerly pulled down his hood.
What a fine occasion to meet again, good sir. I'm sorry I had to be excused so suddenly from our last appointment.
Y'all know each other?
But of course! Mr. Taled is a fellow golem enthusiast and pen pal of mine for many moons now. He kindly arranged for us to meet at last and discuss a possible commercial transaction just a couple weeks ago.
I honestly
a
wonder
couple
why
of
they
weeks
didn't
ago in a
interact so soon.
tavern in Slander where he never did show up.
Taled locked eyes with Adder. In any other circumstance, he would have found himself stabbed at the implication of a could-be, maybe not really interrupted magnicide attempt.
You have 5 seconds. What does Sep need?
A new body!
Excuse me.
Well, we're just throwing ideas out there. Bearbeth's gonna do some science to see if he can bring her back, but, you know, just in case, if worst came to worst, which it ain't, but you never be too careful, we may need to, find her a new golem body.
You what?
Taled! Your sister is still a pitiful lump of coal withering away in a forge! Give the golem humpers anything they want!
No.
Golem humpers.
Are you all mad? I cannot involve myself in this. It's heresy of the highest.
You will help that butterball get every single pound back! Or so help me, there won't be a single merchant in all of Agathor unaware of the fact Taled the treasurer is naught but the son of a hanged deer and a conspiring courtesan.
Taled's mouth trembled wordlessly. He dropped down on his chair, exhausted.
What kind of automaton are you even looking for?
Well, before we can even start to talk about the intricacies of the matter of transplanting a soul, we'll need to find a way to stabilize her current form. I've brought a very exhaustive list of the chemical compounds I would like to experiment with first.
This is the Traders Guild, not the Alchemists. We don't deal in dangerous substances.
You deal in money and brute force. I'm sure you can arrange something.
I will find someone willing to sell you those materials, but that's as far as I'm willing to get myself involved in this matter. Anything else?
Desserts. For Sep. Yep. She'll be real hungry when she wakes up.
So be it. Now vanish. Leave this place and never come back.
Thank you, Tay-Tay! Do not call
Tay-Tay.
me!
Everyone hurried away from the door, lest Taled would feel like shutting Geoff up forever.
He deliberately tried to piss him off. I like those faces, by the way.
Geoff kind of antagonizes everybody.
And he loves it, I can tell. I like how the other ones just keep an eye on him.
Q1 Bearbeth of Askadath wandering around the first floor with 100 different vials and receptacles sunk to the bottom of a cube. And very annoyed Adder carrying a desk and an uncomfortably short distance behind him with his eye nailed to the Blondstag's neck.
Friend, I appreciate that you've decided to assist me in setting up my workshop. I just wonder if you could do me the favor of walking a few steps behind?
You're gonna do something weird if I take my eye off you.
Why? Is that how little you trust me?
Adder's nostrils flared up.
I understand. Trust is earned, and there can exist nothing but suspicion in the absence of knowledge. Very well. I shall continue to employ your assistance throughout my job, so that you may see that I hold nothing but good intentions.
Bearbeth carefully placed a spread of tools, components, and notes across the table. Adder took his nose to each one of them.
Ooh, that smells strong. You making booze here?
Your instincts remain sharp as ever. Alcohol is indeed the solvent for this solution. Nothing too complex, of course, but I'd rather have good ventilation so as to avoid potentially lethal accumulations of toxic gas byproducts due to impurities. I shall now proceed to mix in the solute. Hand me the magnesium.
The magnesium what now?
No, not manganese. Magnesium! Read the labels carefully.
Adder shoved his right eye in front of the label. Then he pushed his eye patch against it just to make a show of it.
Carefully or not, I can't read a thing.
Oh, I suppose that would pose quite the impediment to keeping you as an assistant.
Yeah, I thought as much. No worries. I'll watch from the corner and stay out of your hair.
Are you not interested in learning to read?
I mean, sure. I'd love to learn to read someday. But who'd ever waste time teaching a poor, thick-skulled hick how to work the squiggly ink lines, you know?
I could teach you.
Are you for real?
Of course. Raising the levels of literacy across the kingdom is one of my lifelong goals. It's the entire reason I decided to abandon my homestead in favor of joining the Great Academy of Heirloom, in fact. Though my father would not have had it in life, I always dreamt of becoming a professor. And given that the future of my title is uncertain, to say the least, the most attainable route would be to start the change I want to see, person by person. You shall be learning with me as much as I shall be learning with you, my friend.
I don't know what to say, Bearbeth. Thank you.
And then we can work side by side on building a new body. Better than the old one never was.
I take it all back.
Okay, I'm starting to love him now.
Some nights Adder stared at the light until his eye hurt, wondering if that was really Sepp. If there hadn't been some kind of mistake, and she would turn up one day and everyone would share a laugh over all the time he wasted talking to a lump of coal. He'd spent the rest of the night apologizing.
We have to do something about it. We can't just leave everyone else to their luck.
We'll only find strength in numbers. We have to let everyone affected know that the doors are open to them to join the fight.
That's mad talk. Do you want him to burn the entire temple with us inside?
This is why I said I didn't want to have anything to do with that geezer.
Hey, what's all the noise today?
There's word that a guard was ambushed last night outside the temple in a revenge attack, so the guards have barred off the entire district. One of my neighbors was just thrown in the dungeon, but his child managed to sneak past them and run here.
Say what? Y'all know if it was one of us?
No, I'm sure that's not right. Nobody here would...
The people in the group turned their heads collectively towards Etor as he passed by. He snorted hard, then spit out all the phlegm in his lungs.
Come on! It's the helmets we're talking about. I bet that some deer just got spat at after trying to frisk someone and kicked up a fuss. So now they're using that as an excuse.
Anyway, even if it was true, I don't see what the rest of the Zells have to do with any of this. If you have to blame someone, at least blame the ones in the temple, right?
Don't tempt fate now, dear.
Hey, Yatur, can't you go and talk some sense into them?
I mean, I ain't exactly,
You aren't exactly what, huh? Ready to take a step forward for anyone here? You scared of taking out that stupid helmet, too?
Now, let's all cut this poor guy some slack here. We need him alive and well to translate, huh? You know what to do, Otter. I'm sure the priestess will know how to handle this.
She'd better.
The millenary Great Temple of Hirab had spent over 400 years in a Delaric state, sentenced to fall to its ruin in its own privileged spot in Pilgrim Hill, for not even the most unabashed of heirloomites would resort to borrowing potentially cursed bricks for their houses. Pertok had done so little to change this fate in the time as master of these once holy grounds, but their new occupants were far less complacent about letting their children run wild near condemned walls and falling ceilings.
You heard the news?
Yes. It Door let me know something like this would be coming this morning, but didn't exactly specify beyond that. He says that I have my way and he has his. I'll make a point to call for peace and endurance during the prayer today and remind the congregation what our purpose is.
Zhao sagged forward, burying her face in her hands.
Whatever it may be. Am I failing them as much as I think, Ada? Is it my fault for letting this situation come so far?
A few seconds passed by. Zhao looked up at Ada expectantly.
You really want to hear my thoughts?
It'd be nice for a change.
As a friend, I know you're doing your best to do good. Nobody could blame you for any of that.
And as a dear?
Ada shifted uncomfortably.
The dear opinion is that hearing all the things the Zels say and how the town replied, this was always going to happen in the end, one way or another. You just got roped into heading the march.
Do you think that Joseph will be mad at me?
What, for taking her spotlight? No. Everyone needs someone to believe in. You and I believe in her. They believe in you. Sep believes in herself. And Aina probably believes that she could punch the whole city to the ground and solve everything in a moment.
I mean, do we know that she couldn't?
Yeah. Zhao nodded quietly.
I'm going to open the doors to the main
She's like a
temple
female Goku.
and let them all into the premises. If nothing else, it's my duty to veil for the safety of the congregation at least. You don't need to get involved any further. Just look after our Joseph, please.
No. Run that by me again one more time, ma'am? You really think I'm gonna get all cozy up in my little corner and leave you alone to deal with this? We're a team. If you find yourself up to your neck in mud, I'm here to give you a ride on my shoulders. If the guards come for us, then we'll just need more people. It ain't about you or me or just Barhan's neckcanes. There's all sorts that have it rough around here. We're fed up as well. We make them see we're together, we'll all be stronger.
The chuckle broke Adderson's sipping revolutionary streak. Zhao was wiping a stray tear from her eye.
Don't cry, please. What is it? What did I say?
No. I'm glad. I owe you an apology, Ada. I really thought you only cared about the Joseph for the longest time.
I mean, yeah, you ain't wrong. I'm only doing this for her. Not that I don't care about you, but this just got nothing to do with me, yeah? I just hate it when folk get treated poorly for no reason, that's all.
Why does that fluster you so much? It's a good thing to care.
My horns it is. I don't want to care too much. You start caring about one person in the street, and suddenly you care about two. And then you start caring about all the people you never met. And what do you do then? You can't just think about everyone having it rough, right? You can't do nothing about it. You can't do nothing for them. You're just hurting yourself for no reason.
Do you really think there is no point in trying to make life better for everyone else?
No, that ain't it. You're right. It's good to care. I'm just saying if you obsess over every single person you can't help, it's just gonna drive you mad.
I'd rather be mad than sad.
Zhao sat up. A moment of silence, only broken by the noise of her stool hitting the floor. Then she smiled.
I think I get it now.
With this, the goat headed out of the forge, leaving Adder equal parts confused and relieved at this change of heart.
Here we go again.
A visibly wounded, growing young man, gaunt to the point of misery, Adder's sorry was always a hit among older ladies of all species. I think that's missing a word. Enamored with their new gallant kitchen helper, the wives in the kitchen insisted on teaching Adder how to hold a knife, in principle, a trick to peel garlic easily, and clapped in awe every time he cracked a walnut with his bare hands. He even got a small bag of earth almonds as a tip for being a good boy.
Good boy.
The patio was always a wonderful place to relax. Water glimmering in the pools, a fresh breeze funneled through the colonnades, and the warmth of the sun-baked bricks that made up the stairs turned the cloister into an irresistible spot. It seemed that Adder wasn't the only one looking for a little break outside. Zhao sat tucked into her own corner in the sunlight, head low and whole body about to fall forward. She seemed to be struggling to stay awake. The dark circles under her eyes had never looked quite so grave as they did, starkly shaded against the sunlight.
Zhao, hey, get up. I know the weather feels great this time of the year, but you're going to end up getting heat stroke if you nap under the sun like that.
Zhao grumbled something. She clung onto Adder's hand and slowly got up. She hadn't taken 2 steps when her knees suddenly faltered and she tumbled to the ground.
Jiao! Jiao! You okay? Hey!
Adder shoved his forehead against Zhao's, trying to feel her temperature. She just waved him away.
Don't scream in my ear, please. I just tripped. It's nothing.
What do you mean it's nothing? You could have broken your head on these stairs.
I wasn't paying attention and I got up too fast, that's all. Please, let me go. I have things to do.
With that, Zhao got up again. She leaned against a pillar for a few seconds, and then walked back into the inner temple. Slowly scroll up, slowly scroll down.
Scroll it to the up, scroll it to the down, scroll it to the up, scroll it all around.
Patrolling was an old skill that Adder had never truly let go of. An uncommonly large young man wandering about with a big stick was a fairly successful thief deterrent back home, and it only made him a natural choice for conscription. To this day, he still couldn't sleep for long, as much as he tried. He was lucky to get a few hours here and there every night, and he never felt like staying in bed. An insomniac busybody like him could have had a promising career in the city guard, if the idea didn't make his stomach churn. Adder heard a rustling in the forge. He half opened his eye, finding a short silhouette slinking around with his cane in tow.
Aina?
You wish.
Gaff shoved the crook of the staff into Adder's hand.
Bard. What's wrong?
What isn't? Beasts, guards, gazelles! Ugh. I don't know who'll get to us first, but we're not going to stick around and wait.
Gaff tugged the cane back, trying to help Adder get up, only to feel a yank from the other end.
You know my answer, Bard.
It wasn't a question. 'Twas in order.
Gaff fell back on his shield, narrowly avoiding the hammer that he accidentally launched into the air.
I can't leave until Sepp is...
Don't! Don't you dare try that with me again! I'm done with your excuses. If you want to lose your head so badly, you can go and lose it on your own!
Bard, we don't have to do this again. Hey! Yoff. Yoff! Please. I don't want to lose you too.
Tough cheese.
Gaff vanished into the night.
Tough cheese?
Are you okay, Adder? Your eye looks a little swollen.
Yeah, it's the season, you know? Allergies and all. I'll be fine. Let's just get the day started.
Aw, Adder. This better not be the path to a bad ending. I will have some words with Maxie. Words, I say!
Adder rummaged inside his pile of coal until his hand finally grazed the burlap sack he'd stashed away inside it. He waited until just after lunchtime so he could wander off among the hustle and bustle, and though sneaking out was a breeze, his mind would not forgive him so easily for what felt like a betrayal of sorts. Still, he trudged on towards the old labyrinthic alleys that waited beyond the main street. Adder looked at the small note he held in his hand for the 10th time in 3 minutes as he nervously turned a corner again. He had just bent his neck down once more to check for any directions he might have missed when he caught a familiar growling. The wolf Eka called Whelp yipped at him from the darkness. The beast started to walk deeper into the alleys. Adder took a deep breath.
Bones, good to see you here. Come on up. Did you bring the goods?
Our favorite part-time errand boy opened his hand, letting a small sack of potatoes fall on the table.
I also found a bunch of earth almonds, if you like them. It's a bit late to go making horchata this year, but they're good on their own, too.
Yes, tiger nuts! Oh, man, how did you know? I love these little guys.
Adder was about to open his mouth to point out that earth almonds were meant to be left soaking overnight before consumption so as to avoid breaking one's teeth in half, but he realized that he wasn't in any position to argue.
Oh, man, I was starving. Oh, thanks, Bones.
Tiger nuts.
It's nothing. If I'd known you could eat veggies, I would have gotten you some sooner.
That's actually what they're called.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're here. I'll just like Wikipedia article.
Oh, yeah. A green diet and lots of vinegar is key to keeping good teeth out on the sea. It's not like we can eat exactly the same as you, though. Grazers have a lot more options than us when it comes to feeding. And then again, I guess carnivores get more bang for the buck.
Adder furrowed his brow.
Well.
Something bothered him, and it wasn't Ekka's blasé approach to talking about sentient beings as nourishment for once.
What's that word mean? Carnival.
Carnivore? We don't really have a word for us like grazers do. The bear man thought that beast sounded a bit rude, so we've been trying it out, but, like, in the end, it's just a fancy way of saying meat eater, right? I eat your meat. I mean, yeah, true, but it's kind of reductive. It's not like we kill for the fun of it, unlike you weirdos, always gnawing shrubs to the branch when you could just wait for them to drop fruit. We get sick without meat, you know? It's in our blood.
Adder didn't want to know. He most definitely didn't want to ask, but a sixth sense of morbid curiosity got the best out of Adder.
How's that work? I mean, did you have what did you even eat back home?
Oh, you know, there's plenty of variety in the archipelago. Mollusks, shrimps, bugs, stoats when they bother us. If I never have to sink a tooth in another stoat, it'll be too soon.
Quick, someone
See,
morphed a
Pup,
stone.
the key to flavor is
Ah,
relaxation. Grease is where the taste goes. And a bunch of stalkers like us, we're always tense, so we taste really bad. Here, check it out for yourself. Give me a little chomp.
No, I don't think I will.
Do it.
Oh, come on, Bones. You don't need to hold back. I don't taste half bad at all.
Ekka leaned against Adder, propping herself up on one elbow. Then she
Listen,
started.
Adder, if you don't want to taste her,
Then she started gnawing at her forearm.
I'm gonna go now?
Oh, sure. Drop by whenever. It's good to have you around.
So great.
Adder's like scarred for life now. Thanks, Frick. And Maxie.
There was something about the library which never failed to spook Adder. It felt older than the temple and 1,000 times more important than any gods that may have taken up residence in it. And yet, here he was, wasting its grandness one letter at a time.
Let's try it again then. What is this letter?
That's
Oh boy.
A?
Not quite. Once more.
And, I?
Try to look at the shapes more closely. If A has little horns above and I has ears, which one had a tail?
Adder dragged his hand from his face up to his hair, pulling at his bangs. He trembled slightly, glaring at the letter so hard it seemed he was trying to absorb it directly through his pupil. The stag's patience, boundless for so many other parts of his life, quickly ran out. He pushed the book away.
This is useless. Give it up already. We both got a whole lot of bitter stuff to do right now.
Frustration is an unavoidable part of learning. You will have to suffer the horrors of being unskilled before you can ever become a master, my friend.
No, you gotta have your head screwed on right for that. I ain't never been good at learning, and I ain't gonna start at my age.
Yes, you will. I'm firmly convinced the reason adults have more trouble learning than children is their conviction that they cannot do so anymore. Beyond any physiological changes to the structure of our heart's learning glandule, of course. I must admit that I cannot quite understand how a man of your curiosity and ingenuity would fail to encounter a chance to learn in his infancy, however. Was your village not equipped with some form of school? A learned man of sorts, perhaps?
Learned? Sure, we got plenty. There was a wandering doctor that dropped by once a moon. My bro Betta never got good health, so he was always writing up recipes for the apothecary next town over. Then you got the merchants that stayed at the inn where my little bro Hosu helped out. Those could read and write, and Hosu was always begging him to teach him. But no one ever stayed enough to see that through. And I almost forgot the monk over at the Eremite for our mountain god. That one couldn't read, but he could recite every single lawn prayer from memory. So he worked as the town judge. He was always scolding our youngest, Yoa. My brother's got plenty of chances to run around and get in trouble, see? But I was the eldest, so I had to stay home to lay the fields and shepherd bushes to the stream and back. All one learns to read out there is the clouds.
Don't you resent your siblings for it?
Adder linked his hands behind his neck and threw his head back, thinking for a moment.
Nah, I'm happy for him, if anything. Even back when I got plenty of time to spare, I guess I just didn't feel like learning. It is what it is, right? Pa always said that nothing good had come out of knowing more than one oughta.
I find that there's nothing more terrifying than ignorance. for it is comforting like nothing else in this world. It cannot be cured by anything less than the will to fix it, and it can never be recovered once lost.
Whoo, boy. That's real philosophical of you, Burbeth.
Oh, truly! I could bring some of my thesis on Thorfo's dialectical work for you to peruse next time. Perhaps that shall help open your mind to the fleeting nature of the flesh and illuminate you on the need to transcend your friend's mortal body.
You almost got it right this time, bud.
Every time he does something good, he has to bring up something. It's amusing.
I'm gonna get stabbed 5 ways to second day.
Adder had spent a good long while thinking about what exactly he should wear as he foolishly made his inglorious re-entrance back in Slander. Nightly, going to get stabbed. Casual poor, going to get stabbed and report to authorities for a quantifiable sum. Those were, alas, his only 2 options. If nothing else, he had his trusty staff at hand to pretend he meant business. Not the greatest choice either, as the local wealth redistributors tended to take flagrant attempts at self-defense as quite the insult. But for tonight, at least, he'd made it safely. Adder was back in his old empty house.
Yoff! You in there, Bard? Guess he's already go.
The dull end of a knife staggered past Adder. The buck managed to flatten himself defensively just in time.
Bard! What the hell are you doing?
Yoff blinked a couple times and rubbed the sleep out of his eyes.
Adder, it's just you. Don't think you can just drop by unannounced these days, you tactless flea bag. I thought someone was trying to get me.
Darn right I'm trying to get you. To come back, I mean. I thought you'd be out of the city by now. What are you doing here?
Well, I just couldn't leave without... Isn't it obvious? I'm trying not to get myself killed.
In Slander?
Not that it makes much of a difference anymore, but at least I'm not surrounding myself with a death cult like you are.
I thought you wanted to help with your sister, too.
She's got enough help to last her a lifetime. Let me live the years that remain of mine in peace.
Alrighty then. I'll go find someone else to bother.
What? Just like that? You aren't even going to try and change my mind? I can't believe you do this to me! Discarded and sought after only as you see fit!
Give me 1 second.
I was gonna kick out Gyat's raised finger when he gets angry.
So, chat.
Like, I'm getting the last straw on this.
Yeah. So, chat, who is going to TFF and who's not? I'm just curious. I don't know who all has made the plans.
The plans.
The plans.
The plans. Gorthak.
Love the music. The music is so good.
It really is. It's my Jimmy Jam.
Ah.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
It's my Doug Dimmadome, over the Dinsdale Dimmadome.
Stop.
That is not right.
Oh yeah, I think everyone knows this already, Boxer, but I'm gonna be filling. I'm gonna be substituting in the Roo Croo slot. I'll be streaming to my own Twitch channel while Rick and company are gone. So
But you're gonna be streaming, huh?
Well, tomorrow night's probably gonna be our mellow. Fed'll be around for that. Maybe GC and Ray too. And then after that, I don't know. And then like Friday night, I'm gonna do something on Rick's Discord with everybody. You know, we're gonna play like Gartic Fun or something.
Sorry.
So it'll be fun.
It sounds lovely.
Hope to see y'all there. And if you are going to TFF, hope you have a good time. Be sure and stop by Rick's table and peruse his wares and I don't know. Maybe ply him with coin. I really wanted to go this year, but I can't justify the expense this time around. I can't. But who knows? Maybe there'll be more. Now that I'm doing real media badges again, maybe there'll be more cons for me in the future.
I don't know what my future's going to be for travel, but I do got the itching for some cons when I get older.
There you go. They're an experience. They're definitely an experience to have. I mean, there's a very specific energy.
My sister, she travels quite a bit. So I'm trying to see if me and her can start traveling to cons. But that's don't know when that'll happen. Though. Like I said, I'm pretty much I've always been a homeboy. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Jonas, doesn't Seattle have a con?
Yeah, two. There are three now. There are two in Seattle proper, then there's one like over in I think like Ocean Shores by the coast. I'm a super deadbeat about that stuff. I'll go if there are people I know who are going, but I have yet to actually go to these Seattle cons because I am the worst.
I am back
now. Oh, okay.
I
mean, I'll ask people and they'll be like, "No, I'm not going." I'm like, "Okay." Anyway,
Yoff, I came here to try and convince you. You don't want to be convinced? I'm not going to force you.
Of course! Now that you have all these nice underlings who kiss the ground you tread on, you're too good for little old me! Can't bear to spend 2 minutes around Gyoff, son of a guy, when he is the one suffering!
Adder took a long, heavy sigh. He crouched down to meet Gyoff's eye level and then spoke.
It ain't that I can't. I choose not to. I don't gotta put up with you anymore.
What? How dare you! After I gave you a home and a job and...
You kicked me out of here. I got sacked just last week. And Batot knows the only thing you've ever given me for dinner is trouble. So don't even try to guilt me on that one. There, you got your 2 minutes. Talk to me when you've cooled your head enough to stop being a tailhole.
did he get through? I guess he got through. Okay, cool.
The dreams chased Adder that night. He dreamt of a silhouette behind a curtain and a howling in the wind.
Why are they still at large? Do they pretend to defy us again?
We are working relentlessly to find the culprit behind the attacks, my king.
The culprit? You will not find the single creature responsible. It is all of them. They cover for each other with lies and deceit. One bad apple is all it takes.
Uh-oh.
My king! I understand your anger. I too wish I could put manacles on every peasant in the kingdom. But it's not like I could just explicitly order anyone arrested on the grounds of being Baron.
Wherefore?
My king.
You have explicit permission from the highest authority in this world, and all to come to do as you must. If a plague befalls a garden, it stands to reason it should be contained before it consumes all that is good.
Oh, good. They're about to do genocide.
Yay!
Have all of them bow to us, or annihilate them all.
Pests may be a crime upon the beauty of Dakna, but it is hardly one worth capital punishment, your majesty.
We shall be the judge of...
My king, I urge you to reconsider!
A glacial silence took over the entire room.
The heir to the house of Askeladd would do well to learn his turn to speak, or he will learn to follow in his father's footsteps.
The knight groveled.
You are the arm that moves to realize our thoughts. If our will is that you crush the pests that plague our kingdom, crush them you will.
Yes, my
Do
king.
You have much to learn, Captain. You will see one day. Sympathy is the tool the weak use to bide their time.
Adder's whole body seemed to be thrust forward as if expelled from his dream. Startled and not quite yet awake, Adder swiveled his head around, looking for a threat that didn't exist. All he found was Aina's lilac eyes, trembling, seemingly staring right through him. Adder plopped down on his pile of coal. With each casual conversation he translated, Adder came to appreciate more and more how honest the Persian Zhao was. The times where she thought one thing and had Adder say another were few and far between, and they always seemed to happen around women. He knew that feeling well. Much like the majority of the temple's populace, Adder didn't understand the intricacies of the cult of Hirab. It seemed, however, that prayer this particular morning was required to take place inside the temple premises. Zhao performed a series of cleansing rituals, the meaning of which seemed impossible to translate without further context. Adder could only echo fragments of intention out of everything Zhao thought and said.
Now, we cup our hands and bring them to our chests. Picture your heart in them. Imagine that you hold every worry and every blessing. Feel the weight of your pain. Now lift them up towards the sky so that the sun may dispel these shades.
Once satisfied with her prayer, Zhao lowered her hand so as to put her heart back in its place and bowed her head. She dismissed the congregation and excused herself away from the offertory first. Adder was about to follow her, worried about this unusual haste, when he felt a tug on his sleeve.
Translator, the priestess does not seem well.
I know. She's been working real hard lately, and she won't hear a word about it. I think it's starting to get to her.
I see. Give this message to the priestess. Tell her that Itor will speak with her. This is neither question or request. It is fact.
He's all fun, isn't he?
Even though Adder was starting to become proficient at recognizing each individual letter, words were a different matter. He would pour his entire being into carefully reading a word, then fail to see what it meant. It just didn't click somehow. Bearbith said that this was normal, and he would get better with practice, but Adder wasn't so sure. He often felt like he hadn't become better at anything in his life.
Shall I give you a hint?
No, hold on. I got this. Don't help me. Let's see. If the left arm is up and the tail is down, then that's a de?
Indeed, that is correct. Bravo! Let's put them all together then.
De, lonely R, Adder. Adder? So that's how my name looks? Whoa, it looks sturdy. Like a big boy name, yeah?
There is a whole branch of learning devoted to the study of names and their properties, both in appearance and meaning. I personally wouldn't waste time with such banalities, but I suspect you shall find them quite interesting.
Adder observed the sheet, marveled.
I read my name.
He blinked, and the feeling of elation was gone. Only the awareness of how little he knew remained.
Will you teach me how to read Askadath?
That is a far more complicated proper noun, and I cannot imagine you would have any good reason to know it.
Someone ought to make sure Gelf ain't sending weird stuff to your brother?
Half, brother.
That make any difference to you?
Well, yes and no. And don't misunderstand me. My qualm lies not on the amount of blood we share. My father made plenty of mistakes throughout his life, both before and after I was born. It is not my place to say what I think of them. But, oh, blast that man twice over! Helpar is a phantom of my father come alive.
Say what? They ain't got a single thing in common.
Nonsense! They were cut from the same cloth. From his quenchless obsession with looks, to the constant martial nonsense, to all the humiliations he subjected me to in order to toughen me up as a child. It would be comical if it weren't so cruel. Helpar doubled every flaw my father had. to make up for his own precarious situation. And still he continues to torture me. His banishment was lifted last year, but he refuses to return and steal this accursed title no matter how many times I plead.
Oh.
Now that's an interesting twist.
That is an interesting twist.
Even after I personally tried to convince him that a lordship means nothing to me, and he can keep it all for himself, he does nothing but whinge about how much he regrets this misfortune he cast upon me.
Bearbeth started pacing around as he rambled, swatting his good arm for no apparent reason.
Why can't he just hate me like he used to? I know it's my fault. I took everything away from him first.
Bearbeth's movements became increasingly more jittery, shaking and flailing quite violently, signs of an outburst that Adder had learned to recognize from his time with Aina. Unlike her, however, Bearbeth was still able to turn to Adder with his arms firmly hidden under his shawl and whisper,
Class adjourned. Please leave.
Hey, translator. Is your name Adder something?
Yep, that's me. Adder something. It's Adderson, son of your father.
That's you, all right. There's someone out there asking to see the deer that lives here.
Huh? But I don't really live... Oh! Maybe it was Gulf being petty.
No, it wasn't the bard. I think it was a she. Anyway, not one of us, but definitely a gazelle.
Could have fooled me. She looked like a proper twit.
The guards wouldn't let any random girl through. Something smells rotten here.
Curious and terrified to find out who his visitor could be, Adder thanked them and headed towards the gate.
Sir Upperfield.
Bobby! Yes, person I've never seen in my life?
Indeed. You've never seen me, you haven't seen me, and you'll never see me again. Needless to say, my presence here poses a huge risk to my person, so I shall keep it brief. For the sake of your descendants, you'd best keep it anonymous. A decree the likes of which hasn't been seen in 100 years has been issued by the king. Every single Barhan and heirloom that walks the street unaccompanied by a deer is to be detained and taken to the dungeon.
Something stirred deep within Adder's mind. Whispers he could barely remember, struggling to form a whole memory.
Heirloomite Barhans are in danger, and I have reason to believe the entire kingdom will follow after. We are to be confined for the foreseeable future until this matter is resolved. However, even after all these centuries, the Temple of Hirub remains, legally, a Basaxaran embassy in foreign lands. To attack it unprovoked without a proper declaration of war would give the Western limits just the fuel they could need to start a war against Akasur.
But that'd mean pretty much all of Dakna would get involved in this.
Bamek nodded gravely.
I know it goes against the request I made the night we met, but would you speak with Sir Askadath once more?
Adder involuntarily cowered at the mere thought, but Bamek continued.
My master is one of the most powerful deer in all of Dakna at the moment. I've known him since he first arrived in the city, and I can tell that his heart is rarely in the right place. But it is malleable like few of his kind. He could still be persuaded to do the right thing.
But why me? He's just gonna murder me on the spot if he figures out who I am.
Sir Osgadath wears his pain on his sleeve. His life feels purposeless now that another lover has abandoned him, and his king makes impossible demands. I guarantee he'll be none the wiser in his misery to the joy he'll feel lying eyes upon your disguise, Sir Upperfield.
I don't know. This sounds an awful lot like a trap.
I find it difficult to believe your situation could turn much bleaker if it were. Let it be a trap. At least you'll have the mercy of a quick death.
Oh my god.
Bamek bowed and made to leave.
You still going back?
I have complete and utter faith that everyone involved in this mess will be wiped off the face of Dakna. There may be a future for those that comply, however, so I kindly ask that you make your own choice and forget you ever saw me.
Hey, before you go, can you tell me if Gulf made it safe back to the palace?
Please, I turned him away at the door for his own good. Lord Oscadoth never forgets a grudge.
Adder could only watch as Bommett scurried away back into the back alleys.
Who was that?
No one important. Don't worry about it.
It was now Adder's time to run.
Adder's gonna kiss Adder's foot in the end. Something tells me. Ooh.
For rather understandable reasons, Sepp was not particularly fond of talking about her powers, and she was never clear on where exactly their limits lay. She didn't consider herself a Sephi, be it out of misplaced sense of humility or perhaps even superiority, but Servine society would have surely branded her so. Even so, Adder had known for a long time now that the Sepp he was used to was just one of many forms of a being far beyond his comprehension. Well, not a long time. No, it'd just been a little over a moon since the day she branded him, really. It felt like the longest couple of moons in Adder's life, now that time had turned the worst days of his past into a distant blur. Whispers. Adder was most certain he was hearing someone whispering nearby. His mind played this trick on him every so often, usually when he was about to fall asleep. He'd hear voices of random people he'd meet during the day. Sometimes they were casual conversations, sometimes they were so terrifying he found himself unable to leave his bed. But no, he was pretty sure that this was a real person in the forge, especially after he heard a metal plank being ripped out of the wall had been nailed to.
Ah, Adder! Sorry to startle you, lad. I was just trying to catch Sepp's attention. I have a few questions for her about her latest temper tantrum. Lots of loose ends on this one. Don't worry, I'll put the metal cover thingy back where it was when I'm done.
Adder's jaw dropped.
You knew?
Knew what? That she was here with you? It was obvious, really. No inn in this city could cater to her standards of living, so the next best thing she could hope for is good company, right? No, I'm kidding. I saw her the other day when I dropped by.
Well, how did you know that was her?
Illigrab turned his head toward the fire pit and then back to Adder, confused. He stared emptily in Adder's direction, wondering what could the boy possibly be talking about. Until at last he connected all the dots.
Ah, I see. It's happening again.
His brow sagged and down into an expression of pure pity, perhaps more for Adder than Sepp.
I heard about, well, I wasn't there the night it happened. One of the darkest hours in Heirloom's history, and the full truth will only ever be known by 3 people. 2 of them died as a result, and the other one lost herself in her own mind. The only man who knew how to fix it could only be convinced by the woman who had the least reason to help. The whole case was an enigma in its own right. I've always wondered what in the world it was that Rahl said to get Pertok to help. Guess we'll never know now.
I still can't wrap my head around it. You could see Sepp? Like, as a normal girl?
Normal? Well, to me, she's right there, exactly as I've always seen her. A little crestfallen star refusing to address me, talking directly into my mind when she does. Don't get me wrong, I've heard plenty about how she's supposed to look, but that's just not what I see.
Illigrab stared at the forge with a vacant expression. He ran a finger through his mustache, pondering many matters beyond the situation at hand.
No matter how close my family gets to deer, we're still plants. And plants don't wonder if the fire is alive, or what god hangs a sun up in the sky every morning. They don't need to think about who keeps water flowing down the river, or who makes the clouds float. They just exist.
I wish I could shut my thoughts out like that sometimes. Just 5 minutes, you know? Sounds kind of amazing.
Doesn't it? Oh, to be a tiny flower dancing in the wind, basking in the afternoon showers and glowing in the sun, never once wondering the meaning of right and wrong.
Illigrab ended his short poetic streak with a comparatively small, compassionate smile.
I'm sure you have a lot of questions, but I'm afraid I don't really have anything to offer other than my deepest assurance that she'll be back stronger. the sun rises, whether we want it to or not. Take good care of her until then.
Illigrab marched away, unsure of what else to say.
Hey, Bones. What's cooking?
Oh.
Adder briefly set the world record in the category of vertical jump holding a pot.
But boss, what are you doing out here so early? We ain't precisely alone, you know.
Oh? Would you rather I met you somewhere more private, then? See how long I can hold back?
Eka craned her snout towards Adder's face and opened her jaw.
Things aren't looking up for your party, pup. My crew's informed me that the guard is on the move. An attack on the temple will be ordered soon.
How much time do we have?
4 days at most. We're not supposed to help you directly. Our mission could be compromised. But I'm not going to let you die like this. We'll help you clear a path out of the city.
What do you want in return?
Nothing. I won't say letting you all get massacred so we can have a feast doesn't sound appealing. But I wouldn't want all those lives to go to waste. Not without a few tons of salt or enough vinegar to drown you. Fresh meat spoils fast.
Adder.
You're all heart.
Adder felt a breath hitch inside his chest, suddenly reminded of the pot he was holding to the fire. Pickles. She was talking about them like pickles. He couldn't help the disturbed chortle that burst from his throat.
Yeah, wouldn't want a good meal spoiled, would we?
Would she even bother to cook him first? Or would she be just as lazy as he was and strip the meat down to his bones raw?
Oh, Bones. I'm not talking about you. You are meat, but I'm not one to play around with food. Not with food I like, anyway.
There's a ton of bad guys out there, you know.
I'm sure there are. We've had to downsize operations quite a bit, though. So we'll have to settle down for one bad guy. It's like, whatever, right? One landlubber less in the world. I'm sure the deer aren't even going to miss him. We've come this far just to eat one guy.
Eka dragged her claws down Adder's arm until she reached his hands. She was the first person to have ever come even close to being able to hold them.
But I'll make an exception just for you. Say their names. We won't even leave their blood behind.
Adder took a hand to the wound in his chest. He closed it and opened it over the nearly... I do not recognize that word.
The nearly what?
Cicatrice.
Cicatrice. It means scarred.
Yeah, cicatrice.
Cicatrice gash. He looked through the gaps in the columns, seeing the wires limiting access to the district. He cast his eye down on the people trying to go about their life on the patio.
No, I can't. That would make me as bad as they are.
Oh, Bones! Oh, that's so silly. Hey, this deer's murdered 20 deer. If I kill him, I'll be the one who's killed 21 deer instead. Oh,
You know,
you really
kind of on her side.
But who would you
That's
name?
what we're here for anyway. We'll take care.
I have several
You don't have to
people,
stress
but
out your
I
little
won't
woman
say
and
it on
everything.
Twitch.
Yeah, I was like, listen, you know that saying?
I meant in the
that's
game.
like-
I meant who would Adder say?
You know that saying about like if you seek vengeance, dig two graves, one for yourself, one for your victim, and one for yourself. I'm kind of with that guy who's like, you underestimate how many people I want vengeance against.
Like, no, I'm digging way more than 2 graves.
There's a small part of me that just says, like, yeah, you know, if Edor just disappeared and never came back, we'd be fine.
If what? Who? Who?
Aitor.
The warrior guy, the warrior Barhan.
You want to fight with me?
He's been nothing but trouble.
You're picking on my boyfriend. Just kidding.
Eka patted the top of Adder's head and smiled one of her twisted, toothful smiles.
You know what? That's my mistake. I do need something in return. We can't really fight in the open, and you don't want to get your hands dirty. So, I'm taking Aina back. Just in case.
Say what? No, you can't!
Are you going to stop me, Bones? That's what I thought. Be a good puppy now. We'll be back with my sister before you know it.
Adder watched Eka leave, horrified. He already knew the truth, but it somehow struck him now. He was at the mercy of the beast. He was powerless against the guards. He didn't know how to confide in what few friends remained. He needed new allies.
You know, you could just give in to their demands and have them...
Today, Adder found himself extending one hand towards the wall and one against the ground, while Wazdrip took some measurements. Makeshift support beam wasn't his first career choice, but he was flexible enough.
Da, 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 da.
Now, let's see. Should we go get some more learning done, or Gyoff?
If Gyoff's gonna bother to show up. Adder would most certainly never become a world-famous blacksmith at this rate, but at least he always found his tasks riveting. Adder was hammering away at a shield, hoping it could make something half useful for the volunteers in the lookout, when he heard the curtains on the doorway slide open. Gyoff fidgeted with the hem of his shirt for a moment. He looked up at Adder, clearly pressed for words to say.
I wanted to apologize for the other night. You know I didn't mean any of it, right?
Meaning it or not won't change what you said, Bard.
I know, but it's not me. I'm just overwhelmed. You know I'm trying my best with the mood swings. It's never been easy to begin with, but now... It's getting harder to find reasons to keep my temper down with you hurting me like that, Adder.
Say what? Hurt you? Me?
I know you don't mean to do so, but it gets to me. I see you being incompetent and taking bad decisions and wasting time and rejecting me, and I feel it even now.
What kind of messed up logic is that? I'm doing my best to keep Sep safe. I can't keep my eye on you anymore.
You think I don't know that? That's not the part that worries me, buffoon. Look around you. You may think that you're doing good and being conscientious, living out your night fantasy. But we both know how these things end. You're just helping a bunch of ingrates run straight into their graves.
Can you stop being a goddamn shot in space just for all 10 seconds? I ain't doing shit here. The Barhans, they're getting all this done on their own. Because they want to. They believe in this. And I'm glad they do. Because God forbid someone believe in something in this city. I ain't trying anything, Bard. I didn't even want to help in the first place. I'm done trying to play the hero.
Adder's whole body seemed to sag as his eye drifted out the window.
Not before you kicked us out. We ought to have run back then and never looked back. Just like you said. But that ain't what happened. And I can't change the past. All I can do is my best to see Sep again so we can all get together.
Keep telling yourself that. Maybe you'll actually convince someone.
Gyoff pushed his hat down. He turned his back to Adder before speaking one last time.
I'm out. And I mean it this time. If you want in, come find me in Slander. You have 2 days. Toodaloo.
There's an unexpected guest.
A soft knock on an exquisitely crafted door. It went, of course, unanswered, so the knocker insisted again.
Sir Osgadoth, I've brought a man who wishes to speak with you.
Turn him away. I am much too preoccupied tonight.
Very well. I shall let Sir Upperfield know that this is not a good time.
Then he gets up.
Muffled steps, hurrying up and forward. Elbar nearly fell on his face as he desperately yanked the door open.
Sir Upperfield, is it really you? Were you not a figment of my intoxicated imagination?
Nay, friend. And to suggest otherwise is real darn unkind of you.
Please, please, come in. Have a seat. I'll open a... Bam it! Open a cask of my finest wine. This is a night for celebration.
Nice.
Adder didn't really have any space to argue. He sat down in Elbar's grand hall and enjoyed a few sips of the wine Sep so loved to hate.
Friend, my friend. We have so much to catch up on. So many battles to share tonight. Please, tell me more about yourself.
The minutes soon turned to hours under the subtle sweetness of the drink, accompanied by Adder's talent for inventing such riveting nonsense that his helmet didn't look out of place. Fire burned in the chimney like a rhyme insisting that Adder tell another tale. He delighted the room with old stories and new ones I'd never get to hear myself. So spectacular was the performance that night that Sir Askadath did not speak until the timber had burned down to coals.
Tell me, Sir Upperfield, Have you ever pretended to be someone else?
Adder choked on his drink. Perhaps it wasn't so great after all.
You see, my friend, I am an actor. A phenomenal one at that. I will carry my role to its end, bitter as it may be. I will find that part of me that connects with the description. I will do my part, and I will make the imaginary feel more real than life. Acting is my religion, you could say. It has saved me on more than one occasion. For you see, when I act, I lend my body to a soul that isn't my own. Such unthinkable volumes I hold within myself. The versions of me that could be.
Elbar let his cape fly and then hid within it again, as if trying to invoke the image of an old man instead.
Personally, I love playing a good villain, peasantly as they may be. A villain never fears, never hesitates. They need not wonder about their purpose in this world. They are the ultimate form of freedom, true to themselves until the moment they are struck down. But the villains in some scripts, however, they do not soothe my heart. No, I cannot get them away from me. They hide in my mind long after the play and whisper horrors that I cannot bear to think.
Elbar's posture within the cape changed yet again. This time he seemed to be sheltering himself in it.
I've found some roles demand fiction that doesn't feel as such. They're too unspeakably evil for me, and yet, who am I to question the scriptwriter in his story? It is my duty to explore the depths of another man's psyche, dark as they may be. What kind of actor would I be otherwise?
I don't know nothing about acting, but I think it can't be worth it if it hurts you as a person.
Elbar stared ahead solemnly for a moment.
Worth, hurt. It seems you draw limits that I cannot find for myself, friend. Oh, to be as self-serving as you.
Then he set his cup down.
The code of chivalry states that there is no greater honor than to serve the king. The code of armies, that there is no greater honor than to serve the kingdom. And the code of courtly love, that there is no greater honor than to serve your heart. But which word should I heed when they quarrel against each other? When I cannot reconcile the role with the self? Which motivation suits me best?
I wouldn't know. I've never acted once in my life.
Don't try to deceive me twice, Sir Upperfield. I know an actor when I see one.
Never on a stage.
But surely you understand. Duty, honor, family, name. What boring trite compels us to keep ourselves in the place we deserve? We are bound to our station since the day we are born, and yet I feel like I have only recently lost the light of my life. In a way I can't even describe. It all seemed so easy just a few days ago. My path was so clear, and the steps ahead so obvious. Safely within my grasp. Perhaps it is indeed the gazelle's fault for muddying my direction.
No.
No?
No.
Elbar waited, expectant. No follow-up to that thought ever arrived.
No, it's not their fault? No, I've never had such a clear path? No what?
No. You're just trying to convince yourself you're right.
Elbar's chin furrowed under his lip. He exhaled slowly through his nose, suddenly cross with revelation.
You support those gazelles, don't you?
I do. I'll be by their side supporting anything they do.
Then I'm afraid this conversation ends here. It's time to put an end to this indiscretion.
Elbar made a short, dismissive motion with his right hand. Bowman immediately presented himself into the room, ready to escort Adder out.
I suppose that is the end of that. Alas.
They walked somberly toward the gates, their heads hung down in defeat. The door to Elbar's office flew open one last time.
What folly led us to be enemies, Sir Upperfield? In another life, I would have been your greatest friend.
No, I don't think I could be friends with someone who's willing to wash his hands in the blood of others to hide the smell of his own crud anymore.
I pray we won't have to cross swords, at least.
Adder walked out of the palace, determined not to look back. That was the end of that. Cue Adder attempting to gurgle out the contents of his brain in a cup of salted tea.
It, looks like you had a fun night.
Say what? Fun? I ain't ever had fun once in my life. No, I had a boring night if there's ever been one. Yep.
I couldn't find you around the temple.
Oh, I'm just great at hiding. Not that I was hiding. I was just Hey, is that my boss over there?
Where?
By the time Zhao realized she'd been tricked, Adder had vanished from the floor.
Some vanity trick.
Brick by brick, the temple felt a little less like a ruin every day. As a thank you for a prompt and painful delivery of a whole barrel of water upstairs, Maswin let Adder take a little glimpse of the newly filled pantry. Pepper, garlic, onions, the stale potatoes they already had. Adder breathed in all the fragrances mixing in the pantry, letting the smell transport him to a simpler time, one where he thought he knew hunger just to be proved wholly wrong. Mu had truly made privileged use of his connections to get the best value out of the money Bearbeth had ceded to the cause, then brought some more just to boast he could. Maswin sighed, knowing fully well the cost of all these blessings. Adder didn't have it in him to complain. A deep blue sky stretched over the temple, one of the last few for the year. Once the clouds settled in at the start of bleak night, there would only be gray watching over the city for moons to come. Under such lovely weather, the last person Adder would expect to find on the patio was most definitely Bearbeth. He immediately jumped to his feet upon seeing the roe deer.
Adder, I am so incredibly sorry for how I forced you to witness one of my fits. Please, hit me at once should I act in such a manner again. I understand that such behavior must not be encouraged.
Hold up. What? I'm not going to hit you full stop.
It's all right, my friend. I understand that physical punishment is a necessary tool on my way to self-improvement.
No, hitting you is a last resource kind of... Look, it's my fault, okay? I shoved my foot in my mouth and didn't realize I was asking you something so personal.
Personal? Well, I suppose it was, in a manner of speaking. But it's not like I would gain anything from keeping this information from you. To tell you the truth, I don't understand what shook me so. That is precisely what frightens me.
You don't gotta answer if you don't wanna, okay? But if you do, you think it might have something to do with that whole "it's my fault" spiel?
I didn't even realize I lamented such thoughts out loud. I'm not usually quite so distressed about it, but I suppose the emotion behind my outburst was not entirely untrue.
Bearbeth cleared his throat. He turned to Adder with a conflicted look, in the manner of someone who had been guilty of over-explaining 1,000,000 times and been scolded for it 1,000,001. 1,000,001.
Elbar was the firstborn of House Askadath. In any other circumstances, the lordship would have gone to him. But he was born out of wedlock, to a servant. He would be forced to live as my second, no matter what life had in store for us. And this was still a kindness. Knowing this from the start, we were raised together in the castle. Elbar was my aide in all matters, as he wasn't much older than me. I was told he was excited to have a brother at first, but as we grew, this companionship became fraught with resentment. The childish pranks he would play on me turned crueler over the years. The jokes only he found funny soon became justifications. He eventually wouldn't have the decency to recognize he hated me anymore. It was all done for my sake. The situation only got worse after my right of age, and the confirmation that I would indeed inherit my father's title. Elbar insisted on sparring day and night and day, claiming that I was unfit to become even the lowliest of squires as I was. I believed much the same back then, so I persevered through the bruises and the pain. I took hit after hit with all the dignity someone like me could muster. Until the day when his blunt sword fell on my face and ripped out my antlers in one blow.
Ow.
Adder couldn't help wincing at the image.
So that's how it happened.
Yes. Elbar didn't do it on purpose, but he hurt me all the same. This injury left me unable to use my right arm and severed my horns. But I cannot blame him for this. It was discovered that my antlers hadn't been properly affixed to my skull in the process of ossification. I can hardly recount the days that followed so many years after the fact. But I know I did not spare a single thought for Elbar when I was informed that he would be sent away. Even though I understood it truly wasn't his fault, I did not say a word.
It was his fault, though!
No. Though I resent him for taking out his frustrations on me, I understand now he was merely another victim. I knew my father as a strict and distant man, but I can hardly believe Elbar still finds it within himself to consider us family. After all he put his elders through.
Adder shuffled uncomfortably, but he was wise enough not to comment. Bearbeth didn't pay this strange reaction any mind.
My father became quite attentive and affectionate to me for a while after the incident. He spent days praying to bite tact by my bedside so that my antlers would sprout again, like a fawn's in flower scents. Alas, as you can imagine, that never happened. His affection went like it came, and with Elbar banished, he decided to blame me for letting such a dishonorable thing happen. He would scream, lash out, and stalk every corner of the palace to let his wickedness out on his subjects. At last, when the rage passed and only consequence remained, in the empty days that hung over his head until his punishment arrived, it was his time to mourn. Mourn a living man. I suppose, in a way, he had a point. I am no longer the boy either of them knew. But while to the men of my family I lost something irretrievable that day, that is not how I felt. Secluded to my room with books to last me moons. The day I was separated from my horns was the day I started living. Not as Thumar's son, not as the heir of Askadath, but as me. A deer that enjoyed locking himself in his little corner, reading tales and learning about all sorts of matters. That was the day I stopped pretending. And I might have entirely forgotten how to do so. Interacting with every other ruminant became a near insurmountable mountain since. The older I grow, the more I feel like a fawn stuck in a world where all the adults speak a secret language which nobody ever cared to teach me, and I feel like I'm doomed to fail on my own.
Bearbeth's fur bristled up defensively when he felt Adder's hand on his shoulder. The young lord adjusted his glasses and looked up, only to find Adder's eye tearing over him.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I hit you. I didn't know. I understand.
You have nothing to apologize for. You hit me because I forced you to, did you not? You must have felt like you had no other options.
No! That don't matter. Even if it was true, you wouldn't have listened any other way. That ain't the person I want to be. I don't want you to live thinking you deserve to be punished every day of your life. I'll be patient teaching you, just like you've been with me, okay? I promise I'll do my best to teach you, so you never gotta fear you'll be hit again.
What better quality could a man wish for than compassion, Adder? Empathy! Our greatest wisdom is realizing all that remains to be learned yet. I'll get it right one day, and put my grain of sand towards making this world a better one.
Bearbeth pumped a fist in the air. Then he went very, very quiet. It was clear he was trying not to make any comment about golems.
Geez, I thought Birkins was not going to have like any important roles this chapter, but he's blowing it out of the water.
The night grew the night grew old with each lonely step Adder took under the colonnade. Then he walked each step back over the exact same flagstones. Sometimes he'd whistle just to let it be known he was walking nearby. He was thankful that the dark wasn't part of the long list of things he was scared of, even knowing fully well what might await inside. Minds are weird like that. Adder knocked on the frame of Zhao's cot.
Got a visit, priestess. You decent?
Yes, come in.
The door opened shyly, revealing a sable in a row. Privacy hadn't exactly been a matter of importance to either Adder or Zhao. They spent most of the time together, and they'd fallen asleep on the same premises more than once, but Adder still didn't feel comfortable bothering Zhao in her own room. This coyness did not extend to Etor. He made his way in and marched towards her bed without a second thought. Zhao tried to sit up to greet him, but her weakness was apparent in her face. Etor put a hand on her shoulder and motioned her to lie down again.
Priestess, you should know by now that I am not a patient man. I can't bear to look upon those who waste chances, and my blood boils finding idleness in the face of change. Ibex are said to be great warriors. I came looking for a strong soul.
Zhao cast her face down, ashamed.
But your kind demeanor, and the hope in your words, the innocence in your eyes, you have an air about you that speaks to something I thought dead within. It sends the man I am to sleep and stirs a child awake, and the child fears for you.
Zhao tried to sit up again, but Itor had stared her down until she fully laid her head on the cushion.
I know that you are brave. You have long proven this. But you are headed down a dangerous path, and you must acknowledge it.
I appreciate your concern, but I know my limits better than anyone.
My parents would say the same every day. They said that they worked hard for my sake, so that I shall not grow with a debt on my head like theirs. They worked dawn and dusk, until the day the Hatsa reclaimed both of their souls. The only fruit of their efforts was an orphan, stripped of all innocence in the steppes. Their health, their youth, and their lives were taken away by the yoke of the greedy and the powerful, and it was all for nothing.
This is different. I'm giving my all for a good cause.
You are, but your body doesn't know good causes and bad causes. It only knows pain. At this rate, you will wither away before our moment of truth arrives. You will become as you fear, a burden to us all.
Itor rose again, this time with his chin held high so as to look down on the priestess.
Know that if I must take over your duties because you are too weak to continue serving the community, I will proudly step up. And if I do, I won't be as merciful as you have been. If you do not approve of my methods, you'll do well to take better care of yourself. I have spoken.
Once Itor was out of sight, Zhao finally dared to drag her body out of the bed again. A stressed-out chuckle sigh escaped from her chest.
Was that meant to be an intervention or a threat?
I think that's his version of a pep talk, but you heard the bandit guy. He's gonna kick our collective asses into tomorrow if you don't rest up.
Zhao slammed her face against the bed cushion and sighed into it.
Can we get that break you promised the other day?
Oh, you still want me to come along? Look, I'd love to, but I don't know if I feel very comfy leaving Sep alone like that. Why don't you go take some me time outside?
I don't think I could gather the strength to leave here if I'm not dragging you with me.
They both sighed, fully aware of all the worst ways in which they'd resembled each other. As if sprung forward by an idea, Zhao suddenly bounced up on her bed.
What if we found a way to bring the Joseph along?
Say what? You think we can do that?
I have no idea, but Barbit may know a way. I've read fast stranger things from Sephi. He may just be able to create a temporary container of some kind.
I'd really love that. And I'm sure she would too. She used to have me carry her everywhere back in the day.
Trench coat, trench coat.
At her side, happily that is, for the first time in an eternity.
Anything else I can do for you today, priestess?
No, I think I'd just like to rest.
You got it.
Ada, I know you're anxious, but please, try not to hover over everyone's shoulders. You need to take care of yourself too, okay?
Adder nodded without turning back. Adder tiptoed into Maribeth's workshop. He usually felt awkward by default standing there, surrounded by so much technology he could not even start to name, but now that he had a request which he had to put into words, he just felt extremely inadequate.
Hey, Bearbith. So, I
was never sure what a grayed out icon meant on that map.
Is there any way you could cook up a little of that science mumbo-jumbo to make it so that Zhao and I could get Sep's soul out of here for a couple of hours?
No! If we are to disturb her, it will only be to bring her to her final resting place. The last thing we need is to risk exposing the soul to even more uncontrolled circumstances. What is it you seek to achieve with this experiment anyway?
That ain't what this is. Zhao was telling me we need to take a break, but I just can't take being away from Sep these days. She thought maybe if I found a way to carry her with me, I wouldn't have got to worry about her being on her own. Just forget I asked.
Adder turned away, letting his staff fall a little harder than he meant to. It bounced ever so slightly over the marble, sending vibrations all the way from the bottom to the crook. The bells dangling from the curve shook violently with a high-pitched cry. It was the first time they had made any noise since Adder took them, and the sound trailed far.
Those bells belong to her.
Huh? You could tell?
Of course! How could I ever forget that sound? Oh, how loud the bells rang as I fell towards the ground. It was as if I could sense her very anger imbued through every echo.
Bearbeth shut up all of a sudden. His eyes went wide in realization, and even his hair seemed to twirl alive on its own.
Yes, that could work. Why risk moving the entire soul when just a speck will do? A tiny fraction of her power, the smallest connection echoing her soul for others to hear. Oh, Ada, you are a genius. I'll get to work immediately.
Bearbeth snatched the sleigh bells hanging from Adder's crook and made away with them.
Hey, I said no science without me! Bearbeth! Bearbeth! He's gonna go and do something weird again.
Hey, you're becoming buddies with him.
Nothing bad ever happened from trying to move a part of someone's soul into an object.
That's fine. Sometimes when Bearbeth's voice slurred down to a mumble and Adder's forehead started feeling heavy, our protagonist found his attention drawn to the walls around him. Bearbeth was keen on mentioning the names of great thinkers. Gyoff constantly invoked the name of his father with pride as a legendary musician, and Sepp never hesitated to drop a name if it belonged to someone powerful. Adder had always thought that builders were neat, and liked to spend a long time observing all sorts of buildings. He couldn't read Cyrnar, much less Basketet, but he'd come to realize mason marks and immediately spotted their signatures in these walls. It suddenly hit Adder that bricks and words had a lot in common. One little brick, one little letter at a time. Together they would last hundreds of years.
Hey, Bearbeth?
Bearbeth set down the vial he was manipulating. He sent a confused look in Adder's direction, unconsciously picking up the concern in his voice.
What is it, friend?
I knew your father.
Adder turned his face briskly away, unable to even look at Bearbeth as he revealed this.
Ooh.
And?
Huh? And nothing. I knew your pa.
So I gathered, quite a while ago. It wouldn't make sense for a peasant outside Corbusui to speak in such certain terms about my father. So I figured you must have met him during his last days in Chanthery.
I wonder about that, you know? I don't know if I met him anymore. I mean, the man I keep hearing about ain't nothing like the man I thought I knew.
Bearbeth opened his mouth and then closed it. He took a hand to his chin and started pacing around the workshop. This brought a tiny smile to Adder's face. Bearbeth was seriously giving the next word some thought.
Adder, my father was most decidedly not a good man. He was a good knight, perhaps. Everything one is supposed to be. But not even that could save him from his wretchedness. Punishment was barely a sentence for a life of evil deeds. And yet, if it is as you say, the pain of losing it all perhaps was something like the frustration of learning for my father. He may have realized the wrongs he committed far too late, or shown you a side of him he'd never shown anyone else. We could fill an endless amount of libraries with all the things we'll never know. But I know for a fact that meeting him left a positive impact on you. That much is not up for discussion.
But if he was a bad man...
Then he would be a bad man that did a handful of good things in his life. Fortunately, unlike most of them, he got his comeuppance. And now he is dead. Your opinion hardly makes a difference anymore. If you'd asked me to assure you he was good, or to nod if you spoke well of him, that would have been an entirely different matter. Don't you agree? I don't believe we owe any particular compassion to the departed.
So you don't believe in not speaking ill of the dead, huh?
No, of course not. I'll speak of them as they were. You too will remember him as you will. But do not turn your sight away from the truth, Ada. Only the living remain.
Only they hurt.
Bearbeth nodded eagerly. He stopped dead mid-nod, a revelation written all over his face.
Of course! Feeling is the realm of the living! Our emotions are driven by chemicals, are they not? Perhaps such stasis is the result of not facing this truth. We could induce her to feel.
Bearbeth wandered away, muttering epiphanies that made very little sense to Adder's ears.
I'm gonna leave you to it then. You got this, pal.
Chances are Adder would never finish understanding Bearbeth, and Bearbeth would never finish saying things that were near impossible to understand to anyone but him. One day, perhaps, Sepp would be around and in a good enough mood to translate between the two.
Oh.
But today, they understood each other a little more. That was enough to keep the world moving for now.
The hermit
Yeah,
sage.
It just so happened you're still having like Yao's social link, so to speak, going. So that's why there's more berries yet.
Deep inside the silence, far removed from every late-night conversation echoing somewhere outside the walls, Adder couldn't help but let his mind wander. It seemed, alas, that it always ended up taking the same path. His mind went over his entire life, beat by beat, looking for every single what-if he could wring out of it for sport. What if he had managed to convince the laborer's daughter to marry him? Then he would not have been single, so he would not have been conscripted. He would have never gone to the fort. He would have never been assigned watchman duties. He would have never... Adder let the thought brew just a little longer before immediately pulling it away from the fire. This was not the moment or the place to open up his little box of thoughts.
Adder! Oh, my friend! You are not going to believe what I discovered. My instincts were exactly right. I found traces of Godstone within these bells.
Oh, I actually know what that is! They got hard as all hay to find crystal magic in them, right?
Indeed. A Tharthagon must have made these. Eternally tuned to perfection, swinging to the motion of the Hatsa itself. Said another way, they were indeed echoing the Gisif's emotions. This is a minimal part of her soul you are holding.
Adder looked down at the bells. He understood the entire explanation for once, but it only left him with more questions.
Why would anyone go to such lengths to make something like this?
I doubt we could ever know unless their creator was around to tell us, but given the nature of the instrument and the quality of its sound, I believe that someone spent quite some time trying to help soothe her turmoil, far earlier than us.
Who did give him that staff, I forget?
Adder curled his fingers into his palm, feeling the cold bite of the metal in his hands. Somewhere, somehow, someone, at some point, had tried. Not enough, but they had wanted her to feel better. To see herself reflected somewhere else, or perhaps to let others know how she felt deep down. Adder tied the bells back to the crook of his staff, enjoying his newfound company. Perhaps in the future, Sepp wouldn't need such tools anymore.
Is that the reason why you have them?
That came out of nowhere. How'd you even know?
You think me too naive. How could I fail to notice those bells that never ring? When you won't stop hitting me with the king they're tied to!
I'm sorry, I can't spoil this for you yet. But no, that is not the reason why I have them now.
Adder, do you have a moment?
You
I'm sorry, I've not expressed myself correctly. Run again. I'm sure it will be fun.
Adder immediately glued his butt down to a chair.
I've tried to be understanding. I realize that we're both under a lot of pressure and you're probably tired of dealing with me all day long. You've been avoiding me lately. You disappear without saying so much as a word. I can't help but worry. Whatever it is that troubles you, you know you can turn to me for help, yes? We are supposed to be a team.
I don't even know how to look you in the face right now. I've been trying, I swear. I wanted to fix everything so you didn't have to deal with even more stuff, but I couldn't do anything.
What were you trying to do? Maybe
I'm sorry. I really can't tell you. If I told you, I'd get you killed. And if I don't tell you, I'm just here on my own making things worse. That's worse than being useless. I just want to find a way to protect y'all.
Adder, look at me. We've been over this. You don't have to protect anyone. I am not defenseless, and the three know the congregation would be more than capable of dealing with any trouble 10 times over in the time it'd take us to say, what can I do to help? You don't have to prove yourself to me in any way. I trust you. And if anyone else doubts your skill, that's their problem, not yours. I got your back, as you say. So find a way to trust me too. The way you swear you do.
We need to get the hay out of here. Don't ask me how I know, but there's something real bad coming. A lot of different things, really. But the city is going to dump an actual goddamn army on us in just a couple of days. There's going to be a massacre if we don't find a way out.
I see. I don't think there's a future for us here either. But I can already imagine Ito's response to that. I know his type. He won't back down without a fight, and I'm sure he'll push that view on everyone, regardless of what their own plans are. There is no telling what could happen if we push for a retreat with him in command of such a fierce band of warriors. To run is a sign of weakness. And I'm well aware that I'm only a nominal leader because he allows me to be. Any respect he has for me will only take us so far. But I believe there is someone not even he would dare argue against. Even if it was only an excuse to some of them in the end, the congregation first came together expecting the return of the Joseph. If she were to appear, they would have no grounds to dispute any of her orders. Her authority remains absolute.
Right. We need to focus on bringing Seth back no matter what it takes. If it comes down to it, I'll give Barrett the go-ahead with the experiment. And even if that failed, Aina will be back before we know it to put Etor in its place.
Wait, Aina's left?
She kinda got kidnapped. But I'm sure it'll be fine. She'll return, and then Yoff will have to say we were right after all. We'll make do somehow, and then we'll all get together to brighter shores.
Giggle affair.
We have a mission, and we'll see it through together. The sun still shines.
Man, I wish my crew was this devoted to me. You almost brought a tear to my eye there.
Boss? Where are you?
Giant lady?
Is this the first time she's finally met her face to face?
The second time,
You know,
actually.
it's not
No,
very
first
nice
time.
to fetishize others' height. It leads to complexes and such.
But all she wants to do is see you turn into...
Not that it's okay to call you that behind your back. I'd love to talk more about you. To your face. That is, I would love to talk more about, you?
Don't worry about it. Really. Stressed out meat doesn't taste very good.
Yes, taste. A good taste. You tell me about taste over dinner. Do you believe in fate?
Do you believe in love at first sight, or should I walk by again?
Ada, you can't do this to me. I thought we were friends.
Sorry about that whole thing.
I'm used to it. Never heard it from someone I could eat in one bite, though.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I came for. Bones, is your red friend still dead?
Yeah?
Oh, that's not good.
Ekka's sudden emotional development could harbor nothing but bad news. She walked out of the kitchen, only to return a moment later carrying a small, pale, motionless body in her arms.
Well, we can add my sister to the list then. She died on us again, and I was hoping he could fix her.
Died? But what do you mean?
Deceased, expired, departed, gone, kaput. She's not waking up no matter what we do. Just like when we had to knock her out to bring her on board. I swear, it's like she's not even trying.
Adder's eye opened twice the size it should be.
What did you do to her?
Whatever. If he's not around to fix it, he's not around to fix it. We'll just have to ask my father instead.
Hey, come back here! I'm asking you!
Hey, Dad?
Be gone, beast. I am not your father.
Don't be like that. It's me, Tessica.
I should flay your skin and fasten your coat into a rug for your insolence, imposter! My Ekka is long gone.
Well, Ekka is right here, whether you like it or not. And she's here to tell you that Aina died on us last night.
Ekka carefully dropped Aina's body on the floor, where it collapsed into a boneless pile.
Oh.
Pertok stroked his mustache, trying to hide the subtle change in his expression.
Such is her fate. A waning moon cannot sustain for long. Emotions fade, and soon so does motion. The sun is gone, and I cannot shine for her.
Yeah,
okay,
whatever.
enough riddles.
I'm
Can
not
you
here
give
for
us something
cryptic
straight?
ramblings. Can you fix her or not?
No, I don't have the strength to wake her up anymore.
What are you saying? Come on, patron. This ain't no time to joke. There's got to be a way to bring her back again. Yeah? Maybe she could bite you, or...
I'm powerless, son of Gerfath, just like you. I am a setting sun on the brink of dusk, and I can't keep lifting an entire era on my shoulders. Aina is a relic, a piece of history that should never have become present. Let her fade into the past where she belongs.
No. Come on. Come on now. He ain't just said he's gonna let her die, right, boss? I must have got that wrong.
Adder turned his face briskly to Ekka, then back to Pertok, unable to stop his quivering jaw.
You will only ever came to meet Aina because the arrogance of my youth willed it so. I brought misery upon the world on a golden leash.
But she's your...
I made her as she wished to be remade, and kept her away from the sun because I dreaded my own guilt. It shall all be taken away from me once more. The age of gods and kings must come to an end. Now, let us rest in peace.
It happened in a blink. Adder let out some kind of growl, and before Eka knew it, he'd snatched Aina from her arms and started running.
Adder, what's going on? Where are you going?
Uh-oh.
Adder shook from head to foot. The words hitched in his throat turned to sobs.
I'm sorry.
That was the fastest he'd ever broken a promise in his life. And so he ran.
Aina, come on! You can't leave me too! Wake up! Wake up! Please! I need you.
You know she's been gone for a while now, right? She's just not moving anymore.
She brought her back. Seba, bring her back again. We have to bring her back.
I'm sorry, I've lost count. How many people are you trying to resurrect now?
Just one! One! Sep will fix everything when she's back!
Oh, that sounds healthy. That reminds me, how did she die again?
She exploded.
Attica only stared at Eka, frozen. How did she die? Whose fault was it? That was the question, wasn't it? She knew the answer. She knew. Everyone knew. Without another word, Ada put Aina's body down and stood up. He put one wobbly foot after another, turned away from the sisters. Eka stalked behind him.
So, that's it? This is how you give up?
Yeah, I quit. I'm going far, far away where I can't mess up anyone's life again.
Huh, that's interesting. I thought you'd be all for wanting to find a way to permanently fix Aina.
You know what I want? You really want to hear? I want to stop pretending I'm not a piece of shit. I'm not as hot and stupid as y'all make me be, all right? I was smart enough to deceive you. All of you. That's what I do. I get people killed and then I turn tail. That's on y'all for buying into it.
Damn, you must be an incredible liar to have tricked so many people into liking you.
I am. It was so easy, too. This guy just had to play a little silly and be all helpful and nice, and suddenly he wasn't a criminal on the run anymore. He was Anderson's son to get fired of the upper field.
Really? I only knew him as Bones.
Yeah, well, you're an asshole.
Adam is done with us when he said that.
Eka trolled out a huge laugh. It wasn't mean or terrifying. It held no malice whatsoever. She was just truly enjoying herself at the jab.
For real? Your sister's dead and you're just laughing your ass off. What is wrong with all of you? You're just like Aina. Is that a beast thing? Are you all like this?
Do you want to hear a secret, pup?
Every last fang in Eka's grin shone with a wry glint. Before Adder had a chance to reply, she spoke.
My father doesn't know what Aina is any more than you or I do.
Say, what?
You've played right into his hand, puppy. He wanted us both to run away and leave him and Aina alone, so he could do his mind tricks and turn things back to how they used to be. He's been doing it since the day he found us. He cursed Aina.
What? What? I'm gonna kill that bastard!
Pipe down, puppy. Whatever they were, I'm sure he had his reasons to do so. He would have let Aina die much sooner if he didn't have some kind of plan. I have a feeling that the question is not, will Aina wake up again? But what will happen then? We wouldn't have even known she existed if not for the bear man, Bones. That's the actual reason I came here. I'm not planning to sit by and let things continue the way they've been for 40 more cycles. We found a way to set Aina free, and we're going to bring her back with us. It's true that she's been a stranger in the world since the day she was born, or made, or whatever she was. It's true that she will never find others like her. But we are her people. We don't just love her, we worship her. she will never lack a friend again.
So even if, when she comes back, you're just gonna take her from me all the same?
You'll have your memories of her. I think that's more than you've ever had.
Echo walked back towards their little cave. She carefully cradled Aina with her long, slender arms and set her against her chest.
I'm going to hold on to her a little longer. What's your plan?
Ada returned late that night, only accompanied by the light of the growing moon shining above him. He owed Zhao an apology or 10, and as a proper explanation as he could manage without bringing up an entire invasion.
Okay. That's the last day. Do what you can.
Wait, what?
It's your last day of the last day of free play.
Oh.
Do what you can.
Yes, but we're way past midnight now.
Yeah. I do find it amusing when you said that, though. It just immediately, he just goes back and apologizes, that's it.
To be continued.
Next week.
Next week.
Yes. Because tomorrow Rick prepares for TFF. And the day after, Rick leaves for TFF. And the days after, Rick's at TFF. And then he's home.
That's right. So
I've already been preparing for TFF. In fact, I think
Yes,
I'm like
but it's
98% done, so...
Yeah, but that final 2% is a doozy.
It's not going to be pleasant, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Oh, God. I should probably start preparing, huh?
Yeah.
Max, yeah, I love where this is going.
You're gonna love the different endings.
How many endings are there again?
Well, you just missed a joke one, but there's 3 main endings.
The joke ending.
Yeah, you just missed the joke ending right now. There are three main endings, 3 bad endings that happen if you do not meet the requirements.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I have no idea if I've met any requirements thus far.
You will find out soon enough. Well, not soon enough, when you're back.
No, we won't find out soon enough. We'll find out next week.
Yeah, next time on
Dragon
Game.
Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Until then, good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.